It's actually two trades I want to go over in today's recap. But just quickly, as you guys can see, I am currently in a US 30 trade. Uh, Actually been going really well so far. We have a little 4 hour slash daily resistance zone up here. So if you can get the break and retest of the zone, I will start trailing my stop loss, moving my stop loss into profit, and then potentially adding to my current position. But this isn't the trade that I wanted to go over. This is just the trade that I'm currently in, and I will update you guys in the next trade recap how this current US 30 trade is going. But like I said, today is actually Sunday. I took two trades this week. One was S&P 500 and the other one was a USDJPY trade. So I think I just want to go over the S&P 500 trade first. So both the S&P 500 trade, which is this one, and the USDJPY trade, I won both of them. Took a W on both of those trades. And I think that was actually the only two trades I took for the week, apart from that US 30 trade. So basically three in total if you count the US 30 trade as well. But that's neither here nor there. So when did I actually take this trade? So it was Tuesday the 24th. It was Tuesday the 24th. Okay, so let's just get straight into it. So I'm going to start off with the US 30 trade, and first of all, you can see with this little red zone here, we had you can see over there a 4 hour resistance zone. We had a 4 hour resistance zone. We can see price failed to break above this 4 hour resistance zone quite a few times. We can see over there. Then with this candle over there, price also failed, and once again over there, and eventually off of this 4 hour bullish candle, price eventually was able to break above the 4 hour resistance zone. As you know, as always, once price breaks above the zone, then becomes a 4 hour support zone, right? So we had the 4 hour resistance zone, and I was actually waiting patiently for this 4 hour zone to get broken. And as we can see with this 4 hour bullish candle over here, we got a clean, well, not really an actual like full bullish momentum candle, but it was a good enough candle to say, okay, this break of this 4 hour zone was valid. So we got the break on the following 4 hour candle. We got the retest, break. So it's simple, break and retest, right? So we get the break of this 4 hour candle here, then we get the retest off of this little 4 hour bearish candle. We get the break, bullish, we get the retest on this bearish candle, right? So like I said, this was a 4 hour resistance, now becomes a 4 hour support, right? So once I saw price gave us the break and retest, that was immediately a good sign that, okay, my bullish bias for the day was valid, and I could now actually start looking for other confluences to actually get me into the trade itself, right? So this was basically my main confluence for getting into longs, was the break and retest of the 4 hour resistance, which is now 4 hour support. So that was essentially the main confluence for me. However, I don't just like to enter a trade based on one confluence. I like to at least have 2 or 3, just to be more confident in the trade itself and in the entry, and not to second guess myself, right? So with that being said, like I said, the 4 hour break and retest was my main confluence. However, I couldn't or didn't actually just want to go off of that that break and retest, right? So let me draw your attention down here. And let me mark out these session opens, because essentially this is what that's what I use to actually get into the trade. So we can see and I'll make mention to this now. We can see we have, as usual, our session opens. This first one would obviously be our Asian session open. Then let me go and see. Okay, we have London session open over there. Then this 3 o'clock candle would be our our New York session open, and then obviously New York Stock Exchange opens at 3:30, right? So with that being said, first of all, once we got, like I said, on the 4 hour with a break and retest, by the time I actually saw that and the way price was moving, I didn't just want to enter simply because of the fact that look at this, like I said, the 3 o'clock New York session opens, right? You see, especially like I said, I didn't want to just take an entry right there, simply because of the fact that coming into New York session open over here, we were extremely close to this to our London session lows, right? So I told myself there's a good possibility that price would want to since we are so close to our London session lows, there's a good chance that price would want to sweep and take out our London session lows, and then continue to push further up. And as you guys can see, that is exactly what price intended to do, and that's exactly what price done. So let's get into it. I'm just going to ignore the Asian session for now. So on this red candle over here, as you can see, 9 o'clock London session opens, 3 o'clock New York session. So dealing with London session going into New York session open, we can see we had London sessions low all the way over here on this candle over here, and like I said, by the time we got the break and retest on the 4 hour, price was already extremely close going into New York session open. It was extremely close to our London session lows. So I thought, let me just have a little bit of patience, and I drew this yeah, and I drew this I put this little black line over here just to indicate my the London session low. So I marked out the London session low. You can see coming into New York session open, we didn't exactly get the sweep of the low, so I thought let me just be another a little bit more patient and wait, because I was extremely confident that London session low would get taken out, because we are so close to it. So there's no way price would just ignore it and then push up without actually taking out that liquidity, right? So like I said, marked out, and I identified London, the low of London session. I waited a little bit because on the initial first hour candle of New York session open, we didn't get the sweep. On the following candle, which was the 4 o'clock candle, we can see clearly over there we got the sweep on the 4 o'clock candle. 4 o'clock open, we got the sweep of our London session lows, and I could then start actually looking for my actual entry point, right? So also the reason why I made mention earlier to my Asian session is because we had Asian session lows over here. So I just marked it out, with this red line over here. I just marked out Asian session low. I didn't actually think that price would want to come all the way down and then sweep out Asian session low to continue pushing up, especially since we got on the higher time frame a break and retest of a very key a very key 4 hour resistance zone, right? So nonetheless, I just decided to mark it out just in case price actually wanted to come back down, sweep out lines, Asian session low, and then push up. So I just marked it out just in case, but I was fairly confident, given the distance between everything, that the price wasn't gonna necessarily come down to take it out. But definitely I knew price would want to take out London session lows, like I said again, since we were so close to it before pushing up. So let me just go and take off these session opens. Go ahead and remove this. Yeah, I think I should remove this Asian session low as well. So like I said, we got the sweep of London session low. First of all, we got the break and retest on the 4-hour of a very key resistance zone. Then coming into New York session open on the following 1-hour candle, we swept out. I identified my London session low, and then waited for that London session low liquidity to get swept, taken out, and then I started looking for my actual entries, right? So going on to the 15-minute, I think that's when I took my entry. Let me just see. Yes, this 15-minute. I think it was this 15-minute. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, it was this 15-minute. So we got the 4-hour break and retest, resistance zone. That zone then became support. Waited for and identified my London session low when New York session opened. I waited for that London session low to get swept. Once that got swept, I essentially waited for a simple 15-minute break of structure to the upside, right? So you can see price was kind of dancing around over here in the zone here. In this entire zone over here, you can see like in this entire zone, we can see price was just, ranging up, down, up, down, up, down, giving us just a bunch of wicks. But price looked a lot cleaner on, the higher time frames, such as the 1-hour and 4-hour. And like I said, I actually got a clear direction from those time frames, because if I just looked at this 15-minute, look how choppy it was. Can even extend this. Just look how choppy everything was here. But I was still fairly confident in my bias. So all I did was just wait for a 15-minute break of structure to the upside, and you can see price was dancing around. But then eventually over here, I got the 15-minute break of structure that I wanted. You can see right over here. Just mark this out in red. You can see we had to push up, we had to push down. Then on the next 15-minute candle that opened, you can see it closed above the wick here on this from this 15-minute high, and then got the 15-minute break of structure to the upside. So once again, we had the high, we had the low, then the following 15-minute candle closed above the wick. And that's the key thing here to identify the break of structure. If this 15-minute candle over here closed, but it closed, say for example, with a wick above this wick and not with the body, then I wouldn't have identified that as a 15-minute break of structure. So just something there. If you want to identify break of structures, whether it's to the upside or downside, make sure in this case, I'm waiting for a break of structure to the upside. Make sure that the body of the candle closes above the previous high, or the wick of the previous high, not a wick, because then it's not a valid break of structure. But in this case it is. We had, like I said, the high, we had the low, then we had the high. On the following 15-minute candle, it closed above the previous highs, wick and body, and with its body closed above the valid 15-minute break of structure to the upside, plus the London session low got taken out, plus the 4-hour break and retest. All signs were pointing, after that 15-minute break of structure, all signs were pointing bullish. And then right off that 15-minute break of structure, on the closure of that 15-minute candle, took my entry, and price just consolidated for a little bit, as you guys can see over there. But then eventually, took me about a day and a half. I actually kept this trade. It's more like of a short swing trade, and I actually held it all the way. I wanted to hold it all the way up until all-time highs, but just before all-time highs got hit, I decided to just manually close the trade and took my full profits, and that was it. So it was a decent setup. It was actually a good setup, if I'm being honest. Everything that I like: break retest, taking out a session low, get the break of structure, and then price just completely starts pushing in my direction. Even though it was consolidating, for quite some time, as you can see over here, we were basically in no drawdown at all the entire trade. no drawdown at all. So yeah, and that's the main reason why I decided to hold it. I held it until the, what was this, the 6,135.6 level. So clean, not really clean, but in terms of entry and execution, yeah, can't really go wrong there. So 3 confluences that I used: 4-hour break and retest, 1 hour, took out London session lows, swept that liquidity out, 15-minute break of structure. Simple. Don't overcomplicate. I didn't overcomplicate things. Simple entry, 3 confluences, and that was it. And it was a clean, push up. Also, one thing before I move on to the USDJPY trade, last week was also a very unpredictable week to trade as well. With this week rather was really an unpredictable week to trade because of the ceasefire. What happened with the ceasefire in the Middle East, whatever, it was pretty unpredictable because no one knew if the ceasefire was going to hold, what was going to happen, and it was just one of those weeks where you have to make the best of as accurate as entries as you can get, and that's what I done. So moving on to the USDJPY trade. Just wait for this to load a second. So yeah, the USDJPY trade was actually just a simple break and retest. Simple break and retest, really. So I actually took this also, just a side note, I actually took this USDJP trade very early during Monday morning. It was essentially like an hour or 2 or maybe 3 just after market open on Sunday. So it was essentially, if you think about it, an Asian session trade, which is something I don't trade Asian session at all. But this was just something that I saw, like, as I was looking at the market Sunday night, going into the market open. This was just something a quick thing I saw. So this was just, like I said, simple trade. So first of all, we had a longer term trend line over here, a very long term 4-hour trend line over here. This was the first thing I identified. We had the first touch over there, second touch we had over here, do that, and then we had a third touch on a 4-hour trend line right over there. So clearly this was a very important, longer term trend line. We had first touch there, second touch there, and then third touch there, right? And then also I identified 4-hour resistance over here. As you can see, we had a couple of touches into the zone, quite a few touches. Price was able, that zone was able to hold. Price couldn't push above it. Then obviously, with everything happening in the Middle East, the dollar is a safe haven, obviously, and that in terms of uncertainty, especially with such big uncertainty, people would want to use the dollar as a safe haven. So with that being said, coming into Sunday open, I saw we had an opening above. We actually had an opening Sunday night. We had an opening above the resistance zone. Actually, an opening above the resistance zone. So that was actually big, because I didn't have to actually wait for price to actually push above it and wait for a retest and all that nonsense. So we had, as you can see, 11 o'clock candle on Sunday. 11 o'clock 4-hour candle on Sunday actually opened. As soon as market opened, price opened above the zone. So I was like, okay, seeing that price is opening above our 4-hour resistance, this could actually be a quick in and out buy trade for me. So once I also saw, since price broke above or opened above the 4-hour resistance zone, that also caused this long-term 4-hour trend line to get broken. So I was like, okay, I'm seeing this and I think I'm going to pay attention to it. And fortunately I did, because as you can see, because as you can see on the way this 4-hour candle closed, you know, it opened first and foremost above the 4-hour resistance zone. Then it had a nice push into it, giving me essentially on the 1 hour a good retest. So you can see with the gap that it opened. Look at the gap on the 1 hour. You can see it better over here. So you can see price opened all the way over here. Sunday night open, right? It opened all the way above the zone, leaving this gap here. Obviously price is always going to follow the gap before, you know, pushing in either direction depending on where the gap is. So to me that was essentially I took it as a break above the resistance zone. Then I took this push into the zone as a retest. So it's like, okay, got the retest. Then what price, then on top of that, to make things even better, price gave me a bullish engulfing candlestick to the upside. Got a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern to the upside. Or I don't know if it's a candlestick pattern or whatever, or just a bullish, you know, bullish engulfing candle. Gave me a 1 hour bullish engulfing candle to the upside, right? And then essentially after that candle, I was like, okay, that's enough, you know, confirmation for me, since we had the break of this long-term 4-hour trend line. We had the 3 touches. Then as soon as market opened, price opened way above also the 4-hour resistance zone. On the 1 hour, as you can see, I scrolled down, price gave me the retest I wanted and essentially filled the gap that price made when market opened. And then gave me, obviously waited for the reaction candle. Price gave me a 1 hour bullish engulfing candle to the upside out of the now support zone. And then on the next candle open, I took my entry and clean trade. You can see a clean trade. As soon as I entered on the following 1 hour candle, price continued, you know, just pushed one way in my direction, and I was in and out of that trade within a few hours. Yeah, took the trade around, like I said, 3 o'clock Asian session, and closed it around, yeah, and my TP got hit. I didn't even have to close it, my TP got hit around just as London session opened. So yeah, pretty simple entry.